Good evening. I'm Penny McPhee, the president of the Arthur Blank Family Foundation. I want to thank all of you for joining us this evening for our speaker series event, Cowboy Ethics and Leadership. The Blank Foundation's speaker series aspires to spur civic action and citizen involvement to make positive change in the lives of individuals and communities. We know that across all of the areas in which we work as a foundation, whether it's education or arts and culture or parks and green space, leadership is the key to transformational change. It's especially true of our investments in young people. We want our grants to do more than provide good programs and positive experiences for kids today. We want our investments in young people to build leaders for tomorrow. For tonight's program, we are partnering with an organization, C5 Georgia, that does an extraordinary job of producing young leaders. C5 Georgia's Executive Director, Jeff Cohen, is here this evening. Jeff, raise your hand. Thank you. Along with several of his board members and some C5 students. Thank you all, and thank you to C5 for doing everything you're doing for young people. I can tell you the most about C5 by explaining the 5 C's. C5 Georgia, which was founded with support from the Coca-Cola Company, is dedicated to creating character-driven, community-focused, challenge-ready, college-bound teens committed to a better future. For C5 Georgia, the bottom line is changing the odds for teens, helping these young people confront and overcome barriers. Not only do these young people improve their own fortunes, but they emerge as leaders ready to change the world. The Center for Cowboy Ethics and Leadership shares this same commitment to young people. And we're going to provide you a little taste of their work. When you leave tonight, you'll be able to take one of Jim Owens' books with you. So please don't leave that behind. Those of us who work for Arthur Blank see his amazing leadership and in action every day. His commitment, his passion, his values inspire all of us who work for him. So it's my honor to introduce my boss and the foundation's chairman, Arthur Blank, to tell you more about tonight's speaker.
Penny keeps making up these things. I appreciate it. Thank you, Penny. Sound more like my mother every day. Which is, kind of a compliment. My mother will be 98 on Sunday, so it's Penny's a big fan. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So let me add my welcome to everybody here tonight, and I want a special welcome to the partners of C5, and especially the students. Had a chance to say hi to a lot of all the students. Raise your hands. It was bright-looking young folks. I kept asking you. They live all over Atlanta. I mean, every part of Metro Atlanta they live. So, Jim, where are you? I want to say special welcome to you tonight. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's an honor to have you here and to join us tonight as part of our speaker series. And I'm sure your young students are going to enjoy your perspective and enjoy getting your insights on some of the challenges they're facing as they've gone through their 5-year program with C5. I discovered Jim Owen in a kind of a cute way. My middle daughter, who's not here, lives in Montana. We have a guest ranch in outside of Bozeman, Montana, here in Paradise Valley called Mountain Sky. We started visiting Mountain Sky in 1999. My middle son Joshua was here, was 2 years old at the time, so 14 years. My 2 little ones, Max and Kylie, weren't even born then. They've been going for 12 years, and Kylie actually has won some awards for essays and poems written about her experiences at Mountain Sky and the ranch and what the West means to her. And Max has learned to ride there, and Josh has learned to ride as well. Now he thinks he teaches me how to ride there. But my middle daughter Danielle was involved with environmental policy. At that time, was working for an organization called NPCA, National Parks Conservation Association. And she was working in a town called Livingston, which is closer to our ranch in Paradise Valley. And she was working above a very small old bookstore. And for Father's Day in June of 2005, she gave me this book that Jim had written. And I don't know how many copies you had sold in 2005, Jim. But later I went to the store, there were not a lot of copies there. So I don't know if it was a bestseller in 2005. Maybe it was first published in 2004. But she gave it to me because she knows that I have a tremendous interest in the value of business, as values apply to business and as they apply to life. And the West has been a passion of mine since 1999. So I got a lot out of the book. We were able this year to procure bound copies, leather-bound copies for my family members, and Jim and the photographer who added to the book signed them off for my family, and I want to thank you for doing that and making those copies available to us. I think as you think about the West and you think about cowboys and what have you, I mean, think about the Old West and what you see on television and what have you, and I think only in my experience since '99 have I learned to appreciate the unique values that cowboys and folks that are close to land and close to animals and close to the little things in life and not policies and procedures and a lot of the amenities of life, but the connections of people to each other and people to earth and people to the surroundings, what it really means to them, and what integrity means to them, and what trust means to them, and what courage means to them, and what character means to them, and living principles and living values. And those are all things that I've seen in staff, and our cowboys and otherwise that work at our guest ranch. And those are things came to life for me in Jim's book, all of his books. I have the last two. I've read the first one. I just got the other two the other night. And I promise I'll read those as well, Jim. So I do want to say something. In Jim's, and you all have his formal bio in your stuff at the table, but 3 books that Jim has written. There's one quote here in his bio which I thought to me was particularly interesting. And it talks about his last book, which is called The Tribe. And in it, Jim basically expresses himself, and I quote, it says, "It's all about the tribe, the blend of passion and attitude and effort that enables ordinary people to do extraordinary things and rise above the crowd." Let me reread that, please. It's all about the tribe, the blend of passion, attitude, and effort that enables ordinary people to do extraordinary things and rise above the crowd. I was thinking about this today and thinking about what does Jim Owens have to do with, like, well, I'm not a cowboy, I don't really guest ranch in Montana, I don't ride horses, I don't know what all that means to me. So I was thinking about, a number of my associates are here, current associates here from the Falcon and our PGA business are here in our foundation, obviously. But also a lot of our associates, particularly from our PGA business, worked with me at Home Depot for many years. And in 2001, when I retired from the company, after 23 years, and we had sales increases that were 46% a year, earnings increases of 49% a year, and stock increased by 25%, that's per year for 23 years. The thing I was most proud of at the end of 2001 is that by 25,000 other companies, we were voted the #1 company in the United States in terms of social responsibility. So the notion of doing well in the marketplace and making a lot of money for all stakeholders and giving back and making a difference in people's lives were very compatible. And I want to tell you that of 150 officers that ran our company at that time, half of them never completed college. So I'm not suggesting to the young people here tonight that college is not a good thing, but what I am suggesting to you is that the 3 things that Jim mentions here in terms of passion, attitude, and effort, those have nothing to do with completing college. There's nothing to do with how many initials have passed your name. So in my experience in business over many, many years, it has nothing to do with being a cowboy. It has to do with things that Jim will talk about in a little bit. Those things will be the hallmarks of your success going forward. I think our coach is here. Coach Smith is here tonight. And Coach, say hi to everybody. And great as always. You always look fabulous to me, Smitty. Always stretch you, always look great. But Smitty would tell you that players that we have playing for us and players that come through our training camp and our experiences, etc., he would tell you that, you know, their talent is very important. I want to go back to those three words. I think Coach Smith and all of our coordinators and coaches and Thomas, Mitchell, our general manager, would tell you passion, attitude, and effort probably mean as much, if not more, than the raw talent does in terms of their success on the field. So again, it has nothing to do with being a Cowboy, nothing to do with being out west, nothing to do with all those things. It has to do with applying those things to another area of life. So I would suggest to you that in every area of life, what you'll hear about tonight from Jim applies and works. Doesn't mean you have to ride a horse, as I said earlier, or anything of that nature, but it does mean these principles that Jim, after 35 years, I think, Jim, in investment banking, chose to leave that field and saw opportunities and saw needs and saw folks that maybe the country possibly that was heading in the wrong direction, wanted to bring these points home to all of us, and did it in a way I think that was simple, a way that was had an impact on all of us in a variety of ways. And so happy that you're here tonight with us, and so happy that you've now had the opportunity to do three pieces of your work. So Jim, I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Arthur, thank you so much. I'm really honored and delighted to be here. My presentation this evening is called Standing Tall in an Upside Down World. I'd like to talk about a question that's sure to be on a lot of people's minds. Given our slow growth economy, high unemployment, an intensely competitive job market, what does it take to succeed in America today? When I was growing up, I'm from Lexington, Kentucky. When I was growing up, my dad said, Jim, cream rises to the top. If you're smart, work hard, and he always said, keep your nose clean. You'll be successful and have a good life. I took my dad's advice, and things worked out pretty well. But it's a different world today. What's changed is that these days, young people can do everything right. Work hard, earn good grades, go to college, maybe even get a graduate degree, still find themselves stuck in a minimum wage job if they can find any job at all. A college degree was once a ticket to the good life. That's simply not true anymore. I saw a statistic in the New York Times not too long ago. It said more than half of the college graduates under the age of 25 are either unemployed or seriously underemployed. And how about the millions of kids who can't afford college or vocational training or don't even finish high school? If new college grads can't get a decent job, what kind of prospects are there for young people who don't even get that far? So my question is there a secret to success? Not just in a career, but in life. I believe there is. It starts with self-discovery. You have to know who you are, what values define you, and what true success means to you. So the first secret of success is knowing what you stand for. And here's where I think the American Cowboy can give us some inspiration. Now you all might be wondering, why cowboys? What's so special about them? What makes them so inspiring? Well, I've been writing and speaking about cowboys for almost a decade now. And I can tell you, it has nothing to do with the hat and boots. Now, maybe it's a generational thing, but cowboys were my childhood heroes. I think back to the countless Western movies I saw with Roy and Gene, at the Saturday matinee. A lot of you all are too young to even know what I'm talking about there, but your parents know. To me, the cowboy seemed larger than life. He was someone you could always count on, no matter what. And I can remember, like it was yesterday, how those cowboys of the silver screen made me want to do better and be better than I was. What I've come to realize many years later is that cowboys are still my heroes. But the figure who inspires me today is not the movie star cowboy, it's the working cowboy. It's the guy who goes out in the blazing sun in northern Texas, the Panhandle, when it could be 115 degrees. The one who saddles up in a blinding snowstorm in Montana. It's often knows that when it really gets cold in the wintertime. To go out and rescue a stranded calf, an iconic figure who I honestly believe in my heart represents the best of America. It's the courage, the optimism, the plain hard work that built our great country. Cowboys make wonderful role models because they show us what it means to stand for something and to strive every day to make their actions line up with their beliefs. And isn't that as good a definition, common sense definition, of integrity that you can think of? Cowboys live by a code, the code of the West. In fact, honoring the code is what makes you a genuine cowboy. It's the glue that binds cowboys into a brotherhood. And at a time, this may be my age that's showing this, but at a time when it feels like the whole world is going downhill and the old rules no longer apply, cowboys take us back to basics, back to fundamental principles of right and wrong, back to the idea that personal character, not your job title, not your lifestyle, not your bank account, it's personal character is the true measure of who you are. I'd like to show a short video that shows how the heroic figure, this cowboy, is still helping kids find the hero that lies deep within each of us in this room. I took a film crew into a classroom in Denver. Anybody who's from Denver here knows Cherry Creek High School. It's the #1 public high school in the state. And an amazing teacher named Ann Moore has been working with high school students for about 5 years now, using my 3 books, Cowboy Ethics, Cowboy Values, and The Try. And as you watch this video, remember, this is about a 7-minute video, remember now that these are all at-risk kids, which means at risk of dropping out of school due to academic problems, behavioral issues, or both. So if you would, this is the Cowboy Ethics in the Classroom. Can we dim those lights? Aren't those kids amazing? I never get tired of looking at that thing. What I learned from Ann Moore's class is that when you truly engage kids and inspire them to reach for the best in themselves rather than instructing them or telling them what to believe, you can literally change their lives. The interesting thing is, this turns out to be as true for adults as it does for young people. In fact, that's why I wrote Cowboy Ethics. I was convinced that we needed a new approach to business ethics because the old legalistic, by the rule book approach never works. There's always another loophole, another way to game the system. Cowboys point us toward a different approach, one that's based not on rules, but on individual character and personal principles. After all, rules can always be bent. You can't bend principles. If we can learn anything from the cowboy, it's that everyone needs a code, a creed to live by. All of us. Doesn't matter how strong you are, doesn't matter how well-intentioned you are. We all need a solid belief system, a moral compass to guide us when the temptations are huge and when the prevailing culture goes against what we know in our hearts is the right thing to do. Cowboys have a code, the code of the West. And by the way, the code was understood by every cowboy. Every cowboy knew what it was. It was never written down any place. And somebody's going to say, Jim, I hate to break the news to you, but some guy named Zane Grey wrote a book called Code of the West. I read it 3 or 4 times. He never said what it was. He just said they lived by our code. So I said, I'm going to figure this thing out. So I took about 1.5 years. And as you all have guessed, I'm not a cowboy. But I read 100 Western books and watched 25 of the great classic Western movies, Lonesome Dove and Red River, and I've seen them all 3 or 4 times. And came up, you all share this little card. Now, this is one of my favorite, this is a photograph by David Stecklin out of Sun Valley, Idaho. This is the kind of the signature photo out of the book Cowboy Ethics. And on the back, it has 10 principles to live by. And this is my interpretation of the Code of the West. But I believe that these 10 principles give each of us a great starting point for looking deep within ourselves as we think about the core beliefs that we want to embrace as the foundation for our own life. Remember the video where Ann Moore asked each of her students to come up with their own 11th principle. We've applied the same concept to adults. And frankly, I've been amazed at the responses. Over the past couple of years, my foundation has been working with the University of Wyoming College of Business. And we've partnered to offer up a workshop around this standing tall concept. And it gives busy professionals a chance to kind of get away from the everyday routine and reflect on what they truly believe in at the core and come up with their own code to live by. And so far, we've done more than 60 sessions from business folks from all kinds of industries, 20 states and 7 countries. We've gotten scores of follow-up emails from people who've been through this thing and who say in essence to us, quote, "This has helped me become a better version of myself." Which brings me to what I believe is the second secret to success. To be successful in any endeavor in these highly competitive times, it takes what cowboys call try, T-R-Y. Try, as Arthur alluded to, is that powerful blend of grit, guts, and heart you need to overcome obstacles and persevere in spite of the odds. To most of us, try is a verb. It means to make an attempt. In cowboy culture, the word is a noun. It's a noun imbued with profound meaning. It's also a core cowboy value, just like courage, loyalty, and honor. This is a core cowboy value. When cowboys say of someone, that cowboy's got try, it means that cowboy gives whatever he's doing, every ounce of effort he can muster. When they say of somebody, he's got the try, That's the highest term of respect a cowboy can pay another cowboy, the try. It means that cowboy gives 110% to whatever he's doing and never, ever quits. To me, try comes down to three things. The passion that drives you to pursue your goal or dream relentlessly. Attitude, a positive, can-do spirit that's fueled by believing in yourself, coupled with the recognition that you, and only you, are the author of your own life story. And effort, having the will to stay focused on your goal and give it everything you've got every single day. And yes, I do believe that effort can trump ability. When you think about it, these three things, passion, attitude, and effort, may be the only three things in life that any of us can control. We can control passion, we can control attitude, we can control effort. You can't control your family background or situation. You can't control the fact that your parents maybe didn't go to high school. Doesn't matter. So one of our goals in working with young people is to inspire them with the power of try, to counteract the feeling that things are hopeless, that they have no future, and that there's nothing worth striving for. We're encouraging kids to see themselves as someone of purpose and accomplishment, maybe for the first time in their lives. We want to ignite that fire in them that says, I'm going to be the very best I can be at whatever I set my sights upon, no matter what it takes. If you think about it, isn't that what true success is really all about? Being the very best you can be at whatever it is you really want to do in life. That's what true success means, in my opinion. We also help kids make the connection between success and hard work. They've got to understand that success isn't something that just happens to you. You have to make it happen. And to help kids make this leap, we've taken the concept of try and turned it into a practical method that we call 7 steps to success. It's a framework that any young person can use to build their own supply of try and make it a driving force in their own lives. We've also produced a 35-minute documentary on the try that brings this whole idea to life. And I want to share just about a 7-minute video, if I may, with you all. So if you dim the lights again, we'll show the second video.
Bees and the ones that actually do it.
Thank you. I don't want to leave you all with the impression that try is just for kids. It's for anyone who has a cherished dream or a long-held goal or a major challenge to overcome. Doesn't matter who you are or where you are in your life. Try can give you that edge, that extra push that can make all the difference between success and failure in whatever you're doing. Ask any seasoned entrepreneur, and he or she will tell you about the power of try, because they know that success comes from believing in yourself, setting very clear goals, and pursuing them with everything you've got. The try is also, I think, an expression of our national character, the qualities that built our great country. Having try is what enabled us to settle the West, win a world war, and walk on the moon. Not to mention becoming the global leader in innovation and entrepreneurship. And isn't the try, the kind of roll up our sleeves and get it done attitude that we so desperately need in our country and in our leaders right now? You can also think of try as a pushback against the entitlement mentality that has so permeated our culture because it is anchored in the notion of personal responsibility, the idea that we are each responsible for our own lives and for making the most of our God-given talents. While it's true that we have no control over the hand that we're dealt, what we do with that hand is strictly up to each of us. But I don't want all this talk about hard work and responsibility to keep me from emphasizing one of the most important things about try, namely how much joy there is in pursuing a goal or a dream that you feel passionate about. This is the common thread among all 12 people in this book, The Try, and in this film. It's on their face. And every single one of them will tell you that the joy doesn't come from winning the gold buckle or reaching the top of the mountain. It comes from knowing that you gave it your very best. And when you know that you gave it 110%, you gave everything you had, you're a winner already, regardless of the outcome. And then you too can stand tall and walk down the street with pride. The try is one more way that Cowboy inspiration has changed my life. And I promise you, for any of you all who have a dream or a goal, I promise you the try can change your life as well. Thank you. You've been a really great audience. Thank you very much. Arthur. Thank you.
Jim has agreed to take some questions, so we'll spend a few minutes answering questions.
Sure.
Great.
Anybody? Questions? Yes, sir.
Did other items not make your list, the magic number 10? What could you share with us on other items, and why did shoot from the hip not make it?
Good question. The hard part about these 10 principles, we all, like most of you, I grew up with the Bible, the 10 Commandments. But I think it's 7 or 8 of the 10 Commandments is negative. It says, thou shalt not do this. So the hard part, we're saying, they've got to be positive. Nothing can be negative. And there's a nuance behind all 10 of these. Let's take number 1. Live each day with courage. Doesn't say be brave. Doesn't say have courage. It says live each day with courage. There's a nuance here. And it makes you think about what does courage really mean? Well, yeah, it means running into a burning building to save a child or someone in a wheelchair. Or it might mean jumping into a raging river to save a drowning child. But how about the courage of a single mom here in Atlanta who holds a job down, but is raising 2 kids by herself and always finds time to help with homework? I would say that single mom in Atlanta has as much courage as any cowboy ever had. Different way of looking at courage. How about the courage of someone who is fighting a debilitating illness? The doctor says, I've got some really bad news for you. I think you're going to check out in 6 months. It's that willingness to not feel sorry for yourself, to face the world with courage. So Each of these has got there's some nuances here. And there are a lot of them, other ones I could have done. I think these 10 sum up what I think the Code of the West is. And I cannot exaggerate how many people, real ranchers, I use the word cowboy, it's actually the ranchers are the ones that relate to this thing the most. And I've got several hundred letters from ranchers all over the West that said, how did you figure this thing out? You know, you're not a cowboy. And they said, this is how my grandfather lived. This is how my dad lives. This is how I live my life. It's truly amazing. We've been through a terrible, I live in Austin, Texas. We've been through a terrible drought. And a lot of people didn't make it. And the Austin newspaper did a great story on some of the old-time ranchers. And one guy said, don't feel sorry for me. I'm going to do everything I can do to hold this ranch together. And if I don't make it, don't feel sorry for me. My grandfather went through, what he went through. And there's something about that spirit with these guys who work near animals and the land that's really very inspiring to me. So that's what it is. But what I would invite you to do is to think about what matters most to you in your life. Do you have an 11th principle? I mean, it's easy to be flip, but why not tonight go home and talk to your family, if you have a family, or your loved one, or your kids, and say, let's get a family code. It doesn't need to be 10, it can be only 1 or 2. And maybe you go to your business and talk to your partners and say, we've got a number of companies use this on the back of their business card. This is how we run our business. We make decisions, we look at the little card and say, be tough but fair. So I would encourage, this is not the end all. These 10 principles, I want you to think about these. This is just a starting place. Hopefully it will inspire some of you all to say, I'm going to think about this with my family, my loved ones, and develop my own code. There can be just one thing. A woman up in Wyoming, Arthur, she said, Jim, I liked your book a lot and your speech, but she said, you left out a really important principle. I said, what's that? She said, leave it better than you found it. And that's the one that I thought, boy, that's sure terrific. So, anyway, anything else? Yes, sir.
A quick question. This really focuses on the individual, taking individual responsibility, perseverance, goaling. How do you relate this to let's say the saying, there's no I in team, and also giving back, going beyond that?
Well, again, when somebody says, Jim, what is your business today? I'm in the inspiration business. And I try to inspire people with books and with films and that kind of stuff. And so organizations, they may be going through it, facing a tough time. It's a tough world out there today. And so organizations may get behind this thing. I'm very proud of one thing I'll share with you all. In 2010, the state of Wyoming adopted these 10 principles as its official code. The governor, Freudenthal or somebody, signed a bill into law making this the official code. And as far as we know, it's the only state in the union that's got a code. Why doesn't Georgia have a code? Why doesn't Kentucky or Texas? I don't know. But Wyoming does. And I think that's pretty cool. Anything? Yes, ma'am.
I actually think he had a question.
Oh, yes, sir.
So the message is pretty powerful. I guess the question is, how do we take this message and embrace it, for example, at a younger age in life? I mean, it's great to see a lot of young, youthful minds here today, but how do we take this and really integrate it into our school systems? I mean, I know people participate in extracurricular activities, team sports, other extracurricular activities where they probably talk about some of these concepts, but should our classrooms start having this as part of some guiding principles? And are you seeing that at all in any public schools?
Yeah, and what we did, we created what amounts to a model program in Denver, Colorado. And you saw a little clip of a little film I produced. And that's the And More amazing teacher in Denver, Colorado. And so in addition to being a teacher, and she teaches at-risk kids, Ann is also the director of my foundation's youth programs. So we work with Boys and Girls Clubs, do a lot of work with 4-H, a lot of work with what is now called the FFA, used to be called the Future Foreigners of America. We also work with public schools and private schools. We don't do marketing, because I find marketing doesn't, somebody comes across the book, much like Arthur did, and they email or call me, and they say, Jim, I'm a teacher, I'm a superintendent of schools, in wherever. And say, great. And so we try and get them involved in a program. And this is not a commercial venture. I've got a nonprofit, it's a 501c3, it's called Center for Cowboy Ethics and Leadership. And I'll give you a card, and it takes, somebody said to me, well, Jim, are you trying to get this into every classroom in Denver? Nope. One teacher, one classroom. And let that teacher be the inspiration. So what we do is my foundation and Ann Moore, we train the teachers. The biggest challenge out there for what we do is, and this is a tough hurdle to get past, and this is why we don't have 1,000 high schools or middle schools. And that is that what Ann Moore does, what they do at the Boys and Girls Club in the Rocky Mountain area, they really don't work off of a lesson plan. And this is a shock to teachers. What? There's no, it's all student driven. So, and I call it experiential teaching. Ann Moore says she calls it Socratic. And she stands outside the door every school day as the kids come in. And she's the only teacher in the school. This is the #1 school in the state that does that. I said, Ann, why do you stand by the door? She said, because I look in the students' faces when they come in. And I can tell if they had a bad day. Sometimes there's a boyfriend problem. She said, sometimes mom didn't come home at night and the student didn't eat. She said, I can look in their eyes and tell something's going on here. She would take a newspaper, today's, Denver Post, and she would just start reading from it. And she would say, do you think this person knew where to draw the line? And once these kids get into this stuff, it's amazing. It becomes like a habit with them. And they start using these principles plus their own stuff. But we have an organized program. We'll put you in touch with Ann Moore. There's no big expense involved, but we need the best teacher you got, a teacher that can engage kids, not just instruct kids, but can engage them. Because, as I said this morning to somebody, until you engage kids, they're not going to learn anything. You can lecture all you want to. You got to engage them. The principal at Ann Moore's class is a big fan of this whole program, and I think the number is, I think it's 95% of the kids. These are dropout prospects, if you will. 95%, I think that's the right number, of these kids saw their GPA go up the following semester in other classes. And the reason is they begin to see some hope. A lot of these kids, again, you're the educators, not me. I'm not an educator. I have no background at all. I just know what I've observed. I've been in Ann's class 3 or 4 times. I just walk in there, sit in the back of the room, and just sit there in amazement as she lets the students direct the classroom. But that's kind of the key to it. So there's no lesson plan, where I'm the teacher, you're the student, be quiet and sit still. She likes that, what she calls organized chaos. And she never really knows. So that's the answer. So we would love to work with any youth group, Boys and Girls Club, 4-H, whatever. Private schools, public schools, we'll do whatever we can do in terms of resources. I've been very lucky. The largest foundation in Colorado is called the Daniels Fund. It's Bill Daniels, who I knew in the old days when I was living in Denver. Bill Daniels, I would call you can say it was Ted Turner, but I always thought that Bill Daniels was the godfather of cable TV. And he left, when he died, he left the biggest foundation by far in Colorado. The bad news for you here in Atlanta, he only gives grants to 4 states. And it's Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico, and Utah. And the Daniels Fund has been my big sponsor. And we've got a terrific track record over like a 5-year period of time working with them. So I'll go with the guys from 4-H, and they got a $100,000 grant to teach cowboy ethics and the tri through their agents. And so it spreads that way. It spreads organically. We don't want the government money. We don't want somebody, it's just not top down. It's really bottom up. So one teacher in one classroom is what we're looking for. The films have a tremendous impact on kids. The images, the movies, and then we try and engage them. Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned earlier that you worked with the University of Wyoming,
Mm-hmm.
and I know the Daniels Fund very well.
The College of Business,
And the College of Business, and you may also work with Colorado, maybe the Leeds,
Mhm.
Leeds School. I wanted to find out, when you integrate it with the College of Business, how do you do that? Do you meet with faculty? Are they open to that? Are they teaching it at a university level?
Yes, we're in probably half a dozen universities. University of Texas, Texas A&M, Baylor,
In the College of
Texas.
Business?
No, some of them do it in different ways. It's not always one school, small college, very small college in Louisiana, called me a few months ago, and they said, Jim, every year we have I forget now what they call this, but it's called the Common Book, COM on it. They say every year we have a jury of professors, and they get together and they pick one book that every incoming freshman has to read. And I would like to recommend your book, The Try. And I said, great. He said, Jim, don't get your hopes up. Well, guess what? They picked our book. And so 1,000 incoming freshmen got the book. And they worked, essentially the seniors and juniors worked with the incoming freshmen on this whole concept. So they write papers and that kind of stuff. Brent Hathaway is the dean of the College of Business. He's an incredible individual and has been very, very supportive. And
At Wyoming?
And the assistant dean is a terrific guy named Kent Noble, N-O-B-L-E. And Kent and I have been joined. In fact, he is leaving the university and joining my foundation as executive director on July 1. And Kent is an amazing human being. No ego, just really connects with people. And so we'll be working together on all kinds of projects. I have a creative team. So I hope I don't make this sound like some one-man band. This is not true. I have a creative team. And we create books, we create films, we do all kinds of stuff. But Kent has got other skills that I don't frankly have. And so that's exciting. But we've been working with the College of Business for 5 years now. And when I raised the money, I did a documentary that won 2 very nice awards. I'll close with this idea. It was called Code of the West, Alive and Well in Wyoming. And I made 7 phone calls, and all 7 said, I want in. So Philip Anschutz, who you all know, in Denver, University of Wyoming put up money. Mick McMurray put up money through his foundation. And so I got 7 phone calls, 7 people said I'll do it. And of course I have my own money involved along with others. I never use OPM. I always do my own money and say, would you match what I put up? They say, sure, we'll be glad to. So I don't go to the Daniels Fund and say, please give me a check. I say, I'm putting in X amount of money. Can you match it? They've always said yes. So thank you all again very, very much. I'm really honored. Thank you.